Okay, we're on.
Good afternoon, one and all. We're having a special board meeting.
You're muted again, Joe.
Thank you. Okay. This is RIALTO Unified School District special board meeting. It is March 15th. And let's see, we've got all board members present. Thank you, Dr. Avila. And staff, appreciate everybody's committing to this special meeting. Okay. Any individual who requires disability-related accommodations or modifications, including auxiliary aids and/or services, in order to participate in the board meeting should contact the superintendent or designee, and that will actually be good for the next meeting, which is March 24th. Okay, we are opening. It is 4:02. I'll open it with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, let's see. Dr. Avila, do we have public comments?
Yes, we do. We have several, and Dr. Gibbs and Dr. McDuffie will help me read them. So give us 1 second.
Greatly appreciated. I'm going on mute.
Just show your picture.
Good evening, board. Good evening.
Thank you for helping out.
All right, I'll begin with the first public comment. Good afternoon. I am a teacher and also a mother of 2 children in our district and believe it is imperative that we resume outdoor physical activity for students who play sports. After being at home for a year, I have seen my son become less and less active and more dependent on video games and social media. Sports has always been a positive distraction for my son and so many other students. While I understand those who believe allowing our children to resume sports may be putting them at risk, I also understand that keeping our children home and away from the sports they love is also putting them at risk. Personally, I want my son out on the field again. I want him to resume physical activity, to socialize with his teammates, and to play the game he's loved since he was 4 years old. It is time to move forward and give our students an essential piece of their lives back. Cassandra Rodriguez, Rialto High School teacher. Good evening, board members and guest audiences. My name is Gina Teig, and I'm a parent of a baseball player at Carter High School. I would like to thank you for meeting tonight to once again discuss the possibility of allowing certain outdoor youth sports. I plead with all of you board members to make the honorable, correct decision and allow our students to go back on the field. My son has been ready to go. I have talked to other parents and their children. Have you? They too are ready to go. I heard at the last meeting that our district and high school athletic directors have a plan in place with the safety of our staff and students in mind. They are ready to go. With the guidelines released by the California Department of Public Health last month and the County of San Bernardino now in the red tier, what more do we need? As a mother, wife, and daughter of a cancer patient who is currently under chemotherapy treatment, I wish that there was a pill, vaccine, magic potion that would protect each and every one of us. There is no such thing. We need to try and get back to living our lives, yes, as safe as possible, but we need to start somewhere. Let our students and their families have that choice. Let them play California. Let them play Rialto. Thank you for your time. Attention Rialto School Board. Our kids are ready to resume their lives. Our children are falling behind while every community around us is successfully moving forward. I'm a parent with a child at Eisenhower High School, Kolb Middle School, and Bemis Elementary School. We are doing travel ball, which takes us to many communities, mostly highly affluent neighborhoods, to create some normalcy in my children's lives through sport. We can do better. Regarding this pandemic, I am sure we all take it seriously. We've all suffered in one way or another. Some of us fared better than others. Some got vaccinated. Many were infected and recovered, including my nuclear family. And if it must be said, some died. As there are clearly different levels to this, let's provide the right avenue for those of us that are willing to responsibly reunite our community with sports. Families need an outlet. Kids are at playgrounds throughout California, but our students are forced to live in a world that we have all grown to despise. How long are we going to quarantine our kids and force them to live their lives on the internet, on tablets and iPhones? Thankfully, Frisbee Park reopened, and it is now busier than ever before. We are slowly making progress. Let's speed things up. Open up youth sports so we can reestablish our programs, and let's get our schools up and running again. I mean, who is really keeping Rialto shut down? Pablo Solano. RUSD Board. I wanted to follow up on my response email that was sent on Thursday in regards to the return of athletics for the Rialto School District. I am writing to ask the RUSD Board to approve the return of athletics for conditioning and competition. Since so much has been taken from these students this past year, the return of athletics will help the overall mental health for a large group of students. In addition, it will help restart the mindset they need to keep up with their grades and maintain a regular schedule to help transition them into the next school year. In regards to the students that are not part of a competitive team, I ask that options are considered for them as well. Maybe a system to reserve time to use the track to run, walk, or to use the weight room at the limited capacity for gym services at 10% to 25% capacity. This will allow all students an option to get out and exercise. Christina Ortiz, parent of a 2021 grad at Wilmer Amina Carter High School. Good evening, board members. I appreciate your willingness to consider opening sports for the students in the district, as any form of activity at this point with their peers will be a large boon to their mental and physical health. Please also reconsider opening the schools this school year instead of staying on Bridge Academy the remainder of the year. Please also provide us, the parents, with more up-to-date information, as relying on watching the board videos, which so far haven't updated anyone on reopening with few written updates, is distressing. Our kids are being left behind. All other neighboring districts are reopening, and those of us in RUSD are left in the dark with nothing more than the same old quote on the website from Dr. Avila. It is starting to leave the impression that RUSD simply does not want to put in the effort to reopen as the other districts are. I know there must be more reason than simply avoiding the stress of reopening. This isn't enough to damage our children further. Please reconsider. Thank you, Crystal Lozano, mother of two at Cordiac Elementary. Dr. McDuffie?
Good evening, board. is Dr. McDuffie. I'll be reading the final 5 comments.
Welcome and thank you.
Thank you. Rialto School Board, I would like to make a student statement to ask the school board to vote yes to return high school sports for competition. I play on the Carter High varsity soccer team and would like to return to practice and compete with my team. This will boost my mental health to return to a small piece of normal. We are ready to go. I have been playing with my club team since the summer with no issue regarding COVID, and with the same precautions, I feel we can return to varsity soccer as well. Jonathan Otero, varsity soccer captain for Carter High School. Dear board members and Rialto Unified District, after watching last week's board meeting, I was concerned that some important points were not discussed in regards to the reopening of schools and athletic programs. Effective February 26th, Governor Newsom lifted the ban on youth sports, saying that outdoor high-contact sports can be played in counties in the red and purple tier as long as the case counts are below 14 per 100,000. San Bernardino County is now in the red tier with 6.7 cases per 100,000. The current numbers for Rialto are 9.4 per 100,000. Our kids have been asked to participate in school from their homes for over a year now, asked to stay inside and protect themselves from the spread of this horrible disease for over a year now. I realize that some have seen firsthand the heartbreak and fear this pandemic has brought. As a mental health professional, I have also seen the increase in anxiety, depression, and suicide rates as a result of our children being cut off from everything they have known. There is no longer a separation between school and home. The activities they once were involved in, many from the time they were very young, are no longer available to them. All of these factors have played a part in students' decrease in motivation and self-esteem. Closure was necessary to help control this pandemic. However, now we must find the courage to reopen and let our kids be kids again. There have been many advances in treatments, and we currently have 3 vaccines to help stop this disease from spreading. I know there are safe ways to reopen schools in some capacity. Athletics can be done outside, observing the county public health rules of wearing masks, being 6 feet apart, and washing hands. This would be a start for kids to find some normalcy and begin to rebuild their social emotional health that has been damaged as a result of this pandemic. I realize as a board you are all faced with a very difficult and important decision. There must be, however, be balance in protecting our youth's physical well-being and social emotion well-being. Laura Brown, parent, Eisenhower High School. Good afternoon, members of the board, superintendent, and Rialto community. I would like for this body to make decisions based on the needs of the Rialto community and not the needs of the neighboring community. I believe that you were presented with a lot of information on COVID-19 on the local community. I'm surprised and very disappointed that you are discussing the decision to reopen the sports when we are aware of the risk it represents to our schools and community, and it will be worse when the cases of COVID-19 begin to increase. I do not wish that any student contracts the virus, and this is not the moment to risk hospital visits only because decisions are taken on ignorance and what is popular. You are putting our children's well-being at risk to only appease a few ignorant and to save your political future. I urge this body to plan for a safe process for all students to be back in the classroom. That should be your only priority. Thank you. Respectfully, Rosa Fuentes. Good afternoon, board, Dr. Avila, and Rialto families. This is Coach Salabash. Vice President Montez, you post this on your Facebook publicly. Please read and then present my response. You posted, I'm really sorry to our parents, students, and school sports trainers, but how can I support reopening our schools today when our community is still in tier purple, the highest at risk tier for COVID-19? How can I look people in the face and say, it's okay, go ahead and put your children at risk, when I currently have one of my own teenagers at home quarantined because he tested positive for COVID-19? As a father, I cannot support letting our parents put their children's health at risk while I have one of my own at home infected. I love my own children too much, and my decisions are based on if your children were my children. My response to that post is more multifaceted, and unfortunately for the families and kids, you're basing your decision not on science, but on personal emotion because you feel somewhat responsible, as you stated in the last meeting, for your son working out and training with his friend. CDC has conclusive studies from both NFL and NCAA that show 0 cases of transmission through both seasons. Dr. Chavez and Mr. Harris have done an amazing job as qualified, highly educated leaders in setting a path and qualifying the science-based risk, which is much more minimal than several misquoted citations and statements from the last meeting made by a few board members that should likely be retracted after watching it again. Our sons and several of their friends are COVID recovered, as myself, donating plasma to save lives of elderly and those with underlying conditions that are dying, mostly from pneumonia, which already had 2 vaccines to prevent these deaths. Several coaches test positive for COVID antibodies, which is shown to ward off reinfection by several studies, even creating passive immunity in family members. There was a comment made that no student is going to get a sports scholarship and that ship has sailed. While my own son, a top 20 quarterback ranked in the state in football and wrestling, has had his national rank drop due to no season, has been projected as a D1 prospect with scouts looking forward to seeing him play as Ling's A's Gustavo Lopez, Kellen Smalls, and Jasani Thomas. You are risking their futures, education, and livelihoods of their families that have invested a lifetime in pursuing their passions and goals. Don't be sorry. Do the right thing. Personally, I would not recommend treating our children different because they live in the Rialto School District. We have enough of that problem in our society, but we are working on it and have not let the fear of COVID keep us petrified, as we have educated ourselves and sifted through the personal feelings and opinions and kept ourselves alive with science based on a broader scale outside of the zip code we sleep at night. Several coaches and staff are vaccinated, even though having these antibodies. Most athletes have stayed ready and in condition, anticipating they start several times from CIF. No elementary and friends in other districts are being afforded the opportunity to play. We are not solely dwelling in a community of Rialto. Our families are made up of essentials and blue-collar families with multi-generational homes that have become accustomed to COVID protocol, safety regulations, and self-isolating. We have had plans of return, severe safety measures, and protocol demonstrated by several athletic associations drawn up by highly qualified doctors and nurses that are citing the return to athletic training and competition is more vital than the continuing mental health issues being suffered by our Rialto athletes. We are at the tail end of our already seen multiple judges we are at the tail end of our decision, making now 3 weeks and no outbreaks have been reported by many of the thousands of local schools. We have already seen multiple judges support the return to play in Southern California. No need to punish our children in the name of fear, using unqualified decision-making, and say you are making decisions for our parents that are endangering our children. Look at the CDC deaths of children in the entire nation. How many COVID children infected in Rialto? One is too many. I can cite that there have been none. It is severely important we educate the children on COVID protocol as to not transmit to those at risk at home. But as for those athletes and their coaches that are willing to make the self-sacrifice to seize the opportunity to return a less severe mental health normalcy. It is imperative to understand that there is higher risk of peril to our children from not going back to outdoor training and competition in some form immediately. We have families leaving our district, transferring to other schools, losing faith in district leadership, weakening our community. There is no reason in your heart not to return other than your guilt you feel as a parent. Do not feel like a failure. We are beating COVID together. If we do not support our children or our families to be responsible enough to make their own decisions, then that is a very elitist attitude to dictate as someone that is trying to lead through partnership. Let parents and students decide they are more qualified to know what is right for their family, to stay home, or to safely pursue their dream. I would suggest to the board not to make haste in affording our high school seniors equitable access at an already late return to sports, as it has and will result in families protecting their rights and the rights of their children. Thank you for your time, and please reread that last sentence as to understand the need of the community for equality, as it is above our own personal opinions and needs. Thank you for your time, Coach Nick Salabash. Hello, I'm Natalie Gutierrez, a junior at Eisenhower High School. I'm part of the cross-country, wrestling, and softball teams since my freshman year. I ask for the board to please take in consideration all the effort, determination, and time so many of us athletes have put in the program to stay active and complete representing our school and city in games and long tournaments. I am the first example at my household with 4 more siblings loving sports just like I do, and showing my determination means a lot to them because I show them how important it is to stay active and set goals. My brother, a freshman at Eisenhower, is excited to join any open sports at this point because staying active has helped him and all of us with our mental health. It's been proven. Thank you for your time. That is all.
Thank you, Dr. McDuffie and Ms. McIver. Dr. Avila, do we have anything else?
No, we do not.
Okay, in that case, we've had public comment. Are there any changes that need to be adopted to the agenda before we move here? Okay. I need a motion and a second to adopt the agenda, please.
So moved. Second, Clerk Lewis.
Okay, and who is the first one?
Walker.
Thank you, Ms. Walker. And Clerk Lewis. Appreciate you both, as always. Okay, Ms. Walker, how do you vote?
Aye.
Thank you. Ms. O'Kelly, how do you vote?
Aye.
Thank you. Ms. Lewis, Clerk Lewis?
Aye.
Thank you. Vice President Montez.
Aye.
And I also vote aye to adopt the agenda. Okay, we have one item on today's board meeting, and it's discussion action items. E as in echo, echo 1. Resolution number 2021-25 to reconvene certain outdoor youth sports in accordance with guidance from the California Department of Public Health and California Interscholastic Federation. Can I have a motion and a second before we have any discussion or actually vote on the item? Motion and second, please.
So moved. Second.
Okay, who is first?
Kelly. Oh, Kelly.
Oh, thank you. And the second? There was 3 of you or so.
Yeah. Clark Lewis.
Thank you. Okay. What we have to do, do we have any comments or discussion, or are we ready to vote, board?
I'd like to add something that was sent to me. I'm just going to paraphrase it. It's a newspaper article that says the National High School Sports Federation says COVID-19 data shows that guidelines should be adjusted. What they have found is proven cases of direct COVID-19 transmission during athletics remain relatively rare, and that the majority of sports-related spread of COVID-19 appears to occur from social contact, not during sports participation. So I think that's something to consider.
Absolutely. Would anybody else like to make any comments? Including our student board member, Ms. Lopez.
Well, hi, everybody. Good afternoon.
Welcome.
My comments for this, I just want to preface this by saying my sport isn't going to come back. It's just not in the sports that we're bringing back. It's not a part of the program. It's just not something that's going to happen. There's too much contact there. Unless we do it on a lower scale. I'm not going to go back to cheer this year. So this is not for me in particular. I do say that in my house personally, my siblings and other people have been playing sports the entire time. The entire pandemic, we have not stopped soccer at all. They play club soccer. They are state champions, each and every single one of them from 7 to 14. They have not stopped at all. And I will say my house does not start until soccer practice starts. My school doesn't start them up anymore. There's no motivation coming from that because it's hard when they're doing it alone or with me. And I'm cool and all, but I'm not a teacher and I don't teach kids. I am going to say that my house starts and opens when soccer starts. It's the reason that I believe that my parents have made it such a priority for them to continue to play because they are not excited. No one's brushing their teeth until, we have soccer practice today. So today I'm going to brush my teeth and get up, and I'm going to brush my teeth. I'm going to get up. I'm going to wash. I'm going to do my hair today. I'm going to change out of my sweats instead. That's an everyday situation. And that doesn't happen till about 4 or 5 o'clock. So you guys can imagine how quiet and dim and the house can be when that's not taking place. And I also want to say it's approved. It's approved on all levels, on every level, on the county level, on the state level. The research is there. And I think that it's just so important to give them that little bit. They've been safe this whole time. I wouldn't say it if I didn't see the results, and because I've seen it happen and it's been in my house and they come home, can't bring their shoes inside, but I think that we're ready to take their precaution. I think we're ready to offer that up to our parents and to let them decide. and I was one of the public comments that I thought was just absolutely great. I can't remember her name, but she said, let's bring programs where we can open up a weight room at a 25%. I thought that was amazing because I really, I feel like exercise is becoming such a valued part of everything that's going on. It's a way a lot of people are coping, but it's really hard to do things in your room all day. I don't leave this room. I hate to say it, but Martha called me and said, oh, there's a special board meeting. I said, oh, I was laying in bed. It was 3:30. I was like, oh, dang, let me get dressed. Let me get up. I didn't have anything to do today. I don't get up if I don't have anything to do. And I hate to say it, but I don't think that the adults understand because you are still working. You have a life and you have a job, and your job is to take care of your students and your parents, and you're taking care of everything and you're doing a great job. But when you're a kid and you don't work, there's really no reason to get up. There's really no reason to get up out of bed. And I feel like we need to start giving students a reason to get up out of bed. I wasn't going to get dressed today at all. I just wasn't. It wasn't in the playing cards. I just feel like we need to provide that opportunity and let our parents decide. I think it's important for them to understand that their lives are important and their decisions are important. And it's important that you get up every day because it really can lead to some horrible things once you stop getting up every single day. So, and I've seen a lot of that play out, and I've seen a lot of people call upon me, asking me for assistance. Again, I'm a student and I don't know much. And I would really enjoy some support from sports, from anything, from any programs, any way we can get some interaction in there. I would really just appreciate it. Because I as a student am on a public platform. I can't support as many people who know me. I can't keep telling people that it's going to be okay and we need to be patient. And, I really back you guys on any decision you make. So whatever happens today, I'm going to say that it was the best decision that we possibly could make. And I'm going to support it because that's what I'm here to do. But it's really hard at this point to explain all of our reasoning to every single student that contacts me asking me why and what's going on and why is it not happening, and them showing me facts and details and reports like Destiny, and me saying, I'm sorry, I don't know, I'll talk to them. I'm really doing my best
Yes, you are.
Of our students. So, and that's my job, is to be their mouthpiece. So I have no problem talking to them. But from what I'm getting from them, it's getting to the very lowest of points without telling you stories, without giving you anecdotes. It's getting really bad. So that's all I can say about that. But I just want you guys to know that I will completely support whatever happens today, and I will do my very best to explain to our students whatever decision takes place. But those are my 2 cents on it.
Okay, do we have any other comments?
Well, I just like to say, Destiny, thank you for sharing, and it's more than 2 cents. You're speaking for all the students and the frustration throughout the school district, and you're providing very good insight, and that the mental health issue is real. And I want to thank the staff for providing good information to the board members, and thank you for everyone coming together, because we take this matter so seriously. But, activity and a new environment and the parent partnership and the staff and the teacher and administration with the board, that's why we're here. And I'm so glad that we're able to make a decision and people are not left in limbo.
Anyone else? Okay, I do have a couple of comments. First of all, Destiny, thank you, you wise old soul. You are definitely ticking off some points. I want to speak to every student that mirrors what you were just saying, that it's tough to get out of bed and this and that. Well, what COVID has enforced on every one of us, especially the students, that's exactly what retirement's like. And I chose that 12 years ago. So I have to keep myself motivated. Otherwise, I don't brush till later. I don't get out of the sweatshirt until later. It mirrors everything. Exactly. So when you do get back to work, then don't be so in a rush to get to Saturday or retire.
Right.
Okay.
Saturday.
Yeah. I do have a question to, maybe it's legal and maybe it won't matter at all. Dr. Avila, have you ever heard of anyone rescinding a vote? And the reason I ask that, if I vote in the affirmative and all of a sudden we get back off spring break, can I rescind my vote if things go totally negative?
My understanding is yes, we would just need to call a separate board meeting where further action is taken.
Okay. Yeah, don't want to think about that. Then just to make sure we're no longer in purple, I heard that we are now in red as of the 15th.
Correct.
Okay. Everybody is getting mixed messages from Washington, from Sacramento, from San Bernardino County. Washington, Dr. I believe it's Fausti, the guy who's like, yeah, him, said don't go out and start doing anything new right now. We're just getting the numbers under control. And he said it is still unsafe. And that's nationwide. Then I'm going to give you a little bit of insight into my train of thought. You've heard me say before that we have to vote locally, not nationwide, not countywide, not statewide. So Dr. Fausti, he's in Washington. That's quite a ways away. So I'm going to listen to our local numbers that says we're okay, we're in red for the time being. My old soul, Destiny, touched on one point, that parents will need to make the final determination. It is really up to the parent, because when whatever the board is, whether it's here or elsewhere, whether you let your students stay home from school when we get back to normal times, whether you enforce them getting online for distance education, whether you allow them or not to play sports or go out with their friends, when this board votes yes, if they do, then it's going to fall on you. So I just want to let everybody know the ramifications of what us on the board are having to think. So other than that, all my talking points are handled. Anybody else for comments before we vote? Vice President Montez, then Ms. Walker.
I'm sorry, I didn't see Ms. Walker's hand up, but ladies first.
Okay, Ms. Walker.
Oh, thank you. No, my question just goes back to just to kind of make sure that we're to reinforce or reiterate. We've got all of our insurance together, right? To cover us in reference to what are the possibilities that could happen with student infection or that kind of stuff. So, I mean, everybody, and I don't know if the vote goes to open for athletics. What's the protocol on letting parents know how many people that are going to be working at the schools? If they've been vaccinated or whatever, if parents want to know that. because I think that would be a concern for me. I want to know, is the teacher that's coming back or whoever the support staff is working with the students after school, have they been either vaccinated or signed something? You know what I'm saying? Like, is that, I know that, people's medical records are private, but is that an option is there some kind of way for us to kind of say, 80% of the people that are working after then have been vaccinated or whatever? And I'm only talking about those people that were vaccinated with us, right, through our procedure, so that I guess we would know that. I don't know. So I just want to make sure the parents have information about, have the best information if they decide to bring their kids back into after school recreation or athletics. Will they be able to get their questions answered there and have information on kind of what are those protocols? I know we had an extensive presentation on it last week, but is there going to make sure is there something written so when parents are coming there, they can either read it or talk to someone? I just want to make sure all of those things so parents are making the best and informed decisions if we decide to open up and they decide to bring their young people to us.
So, Ms. Walker, in summary, the answer to all those questions is yes, with respect to notifying parents or, the board, for example, regarding the number of staff members who have received the vaccination. That does fall under HIPAA. And the only thing that we could do is present general numbers based on those who make it available to us. And Derek is also available to answer any other questions, Derek, that I might have missed. Derek?
Good evening, President Martinez and Vice President Montes, Clerk Lewis, and members of the board, Walker and O'Kelly, and our student board member, Lopez, Derek Harris, lead agent with Risk Management and Transportation, and also to you, Dr. Avila. Thank you for your comments and questions. Thank you. Thank you for your comments and questions, Board Member Walker. And we are closely monitoring the sports safety plan to ensure that we take every avenue and spare no precaution in terms of keeping students safe. As a government entity, we're responsible for what we know and what we should have known in regards to liability. So what we know is that there is a pandemic, and what we should have known is that we have to keep kids safe and we have to move forward in a very methodical and safe manner. There is no protection, and I know many of you may have received some information saying that there is protection for school districts against certain liabilities, but there is no current protection against liability. So our protection lies in this. Have we taken all the precautions that we should have taken? And did we do the things that we knew to do and should have known to do? And the answer for those two questions right now is yes. We will closely monitor it should the board decide to move forward, and we will make adjustments to those plans. As Ms. O'Kelly mentioned earlier, the plans can be adjusted in order to meet any current threat and make sure that we're addressing information. We continue to make vaccinations available to district staff. Currently, right now, we are in the process of wrapping up 162 code, it's a tongue twister, 162 code offering vaccinations to district employees. We have about a dozen left to go, and then that would wrap up that round. I can tell you of a surety without violating HIPAA that there are some coaches that we not only emailed and reached out to, but then we did follow-up phone calls to all of our varsity and our assistant coaches to make sure that they knew about the opportunity. We can't force them to get it, because if we force one group, then we have to make it mandated for all employees, and we can't start segregating out people. But we are making sure that it's available to all people. And I can validate that some of our coaches have definitely taken opportunities provided through the district to receive vaccinations.
Right, and thank you. I definitely, I do understand the HIPAA violations if we were to disclose. So that was the thing. So the general information, just as you reported, will suffice. I just want to make sure that parents have an opportunity to ask those questions and get the correct answers in a timely fashion. And then also, thank you for talking about the fact that you are be monitoring what the status of all of the, from the county as well as our city in reference to not only vaccinations, but also going down on the number of cases with positive COVID. Because if there needs to be an adjustment, meaning if we vote in favor of opening and we need to rapidly close, then that'll give us an opportunity to do that, as long as you guys are staying at the wheel of what the data is looking like in our region specifically. So thank you for that. And I'm hoping that, whatever the vote turns out to be, we still move forward with, again, monitoring everything that's going on and making the best decisions for our students and our staff. And lastly, thank you, Ms. Lopez, for that very authentic response. Because again, I think you have done an excellent job of representing not only yourself as a young person on our board, but the voices of the students. So I applaud you for keeping your door, your phone, your text, everything that's going on open and being responsive to them and their needs and bringing forth their voice in this, because this is a serious decision. And for the most people who does it affect, it really affects the students most. There are more students in our district than there are staff and grown folks. So thank you for bringing that voice. Thank you, President Martinez.
Thank you, Ms. Walker. Okay, Vice President Montez, your turn.
Thank you, Board President, Mr. Martinez. Good evening, everybody. And thank you, Mr. Harris, for your answers. I think it's important to point out that if parents wanted to know if the staff members are vaccinated or not, unfortunately, we can't give them direct information as to who has and who hasn't. So there is a possibility that if somebody refuses to take the vaccination or be vaccinated, they may be exposed to those individuals who choose not to receive the vaccination. I also wanted to just thank our student board member, Destiny Lopez, for her words and her sharing her comments with us. I do feel for all of our students, all of our parents who are experiencing these feelings of helplessness, these feelings of sadness, these feelings of not being able to do the regular things we like to do, we enjoy to do. And I do want to also just thank her for the quote that she's got on her T-shirt right there, because I too am inspired by many Black women, including the late Dr. King's wife, who is currently right now fighting into new allegations regarding the late Dr. King's murder, assassination. I think it's important that we continue to praise women, praise Black women, praise brown women, white women, all women who choose to stand up and fight for what they believe, right? I do want to share, speaking of Dr. King, I do want to share the quote that I play out all the time by Dr. King. And sooner or later, you guys will memorize it, and I won't have to re-quote it. You guys will be able to re-quote it for me. But one of my favorite Dr. King's quotes is, "The true measure of a person is not where they stand in times of comfort and convenience. The true measure of a person is where they stand in times of challenge and controversy." Now, obviously, we're going through a big challenge and a big controversy. Now, maybe not all of the community is on the same page when it comes to whether we should reopen up our schools and our sports at this time or not. I just based on the limited amount of contact that I have, my contacts, the people that I'm lucky enough and fortunate enough to have communication with in the community, I would venture to say that based on my experience, the majority of parents and staff members in the community would like for us to remain closed at this time, both for school and for sports, especially so late in the school year. And one of the things that I have heard from some people who want us to reopen both the schools and the sports. I've heard from some people who want to just reopen up the sports. But how can we turn and tell everybody, wait a minute, it's not safe enough to open up the classrooms, but your kids, go ahead and send your kids to the schools though, so they can play sports. We can't have our cake and eat it too. It's either one or the other. Either it's safe enough to open up the schools or it's not. We can't have double standards. Nobody knows what it's like unless you've been through it or you know yourself, somebody who has lost a child, that there's no greater hurt in this world than losing a child. When we lose a loved one, when we lose an elder, when we lose a parent, it's one thing. But when a parent loses a child, there's no worse suffering in the world than losing a child. That's not a risk I'm willing to take. We're in the red tier now. Good, great. I would like to see us get into the orange tier. We're this close to ending the school year. Kids are going off on spring break right now. People are on spring break right now. And what has happened, if we've learned anything about this pandemic, every single time there's a break, there's a holiday, there's a long weekend, the numbers start to go back up. Why would we want to take that risk? That's not a gamble I'm willing to take. All I know is that regardless of how everybody chooses to vote, just keep in mind, is there still significant risk? And to me, if we're in the red, there's still significant risk. And again, I apologize, and I'll keep apologizing to the people in the community who want us to reopen, whether it's the classrooms or the sports, but I honestly don't believe, based on the science, that it's safe enough to do so yet. I'd rather just finish out the end of the school year as we are and then see where we're at then. I think that's the safest route to take based on the scientific evidence, which we know there's people who don't care about it anyways because they don't wear masks, or they don't want to get a vaccine, or they think it's a conspiracy. All I know is that it's affected me personally in my home, and I've seen friends and families and loved ones suffer from this pandemic, and I wouldn't wish that upon anybody's child. I think it's better to be safe than sorry. That's all I've got to say. Thank you, Board President, Mr. Martinez.
Thank you, Board President.
I have a comment.
Okay.
I was wondering if we could read the resolution. I think that will, of what we're voting on. If the staff can read the resolution.
You're on mute, Mr. Martinez.
Okay, I have a question after comments, but we have a request that the entire resolution be read. Normally, it's just read from the now therefore. Do we have staff that is ready to read the resolution in its entirety?
I can go ahead and read it.
Take the first two paragraphs and I'll follow and we can alternate.
Okay, so first is, whereas on or about March 23rd, 2020, the Rialto Unified School District, in response to the COVID-19 crisis, closed its schools and ceased operation of its athletic programs. Whereas on December 14th, 2020, the California Department of Public Health released guidance for youth sports programs outlining requirements and recommendations for safe youth sports programs. Under this guidance, the CDPH authorized physical conditioning, practice skill building, and training that can be conducted outdoors with 6 feet of physical distance between participants and within stable cohorts to resume competition regardless of the county tier status. This authorized low-contact outdoor sports, including track and field, cross-country, tennis, swimming, and diving, and golf to resume even while the county remain in the California Blueprint for a Safer Economy widespread or purple tier.
Whereas on February 19th, 2021, the CDPH released updated guidance for youth sports programs permitting outdoor moderate contact and high contact sports, including football, soccer, baseball, and cheerleading, to begin competition as early as February 26th of 2021, so long as adjusted case rates for COVID-19 in the county are equal to or less than 14 cases per 100,000 population, and other testing and informed consents requirements are followed. Whereas as of March 13th, 2021, San Bernardino County is designated in the California Blueprint for a Safer Economy as being in the substantial or red tier. I repeat, red tier, with an adjusted case rate of 6.7 per 100,000 population. Thus, the district may reconvene certain outdoor youth sports programs in accordance with the CDPH and CIF guidance. Can you take the next two?
Yes, whereas to ensure the safety of district students, employees, and community, the district will require various safety measures for students participating in the district's youth sports programs, employees assisting with these programs, and community members observing these programs, including use of face coverings, social distancing requirements, and other safety measures. Now, therefore, be it resolved and ordered that the board authorizes certain outdoor athletic programs to resume conditioning and subsequent competition pursuant to CDPH and CIF requirements and guidelines.
Be it further resolved that the superintendent and his designees will continue to meet to evaluate local, state, and federal health orders relating to COVID-19 pandemic, and will make recommendations and implement protocols necessary to comply with those orders. Be it further resolved and ordered that should any portion of this resolution be held invalid, the invalidity shall not affect other provisions or applications of the resolution, which can be given effect without the invalid provision or application. And to this end, the provisions of this resolution are declared to be severable. Approved, passed, and adopted. Well, we'll see. Okay, vote. Are we ready to vote? All righty. Ms. Walker.
I was just a question. I was trying to jump back in. If we're voting on this, when would it actually go into effect?
It will go into effect immediately, but there are timetables that need to be honored in order for certain steps to actually take place. But the resolution in and of itself will go into effect immediately after the vote.
Okay, so as far as implementation, meaning what would be the first, ideally, if there was a in favor vote today, what would be the first date that it would actually be, students would actually be able to participate in athletics?
And so Dr. Chavez is here to help us answer that question.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, board, Dr. Avila, and viewing audience. So we have an internal timetable that has been created with the assistance of the high school principals and the athletic directors. We need a 2-week allowance for clearance of students and coaches. And the sports that were shown on the presentation for last week, those sports would be able to come back and condition. If we approve today, it would be in 2 weeks.
And a follow-up question to that, Dr. Chavez, from me, if students and coaches are able to clear, let's say in a few days, are we waiting for the entire cohort to clear, or will we allow those coaches and students to show up at school as they are cleared individually?
We want to be consistent, and we want to make sure that we're giving the sites 2 weeks to have all necessary PPE, site plans ready, and coaches cleared. So we want to make sure that we're aware of when that starting date would be, so it would be consistent with the 2 weeks. Once conditioning begins, Derek Harris, myself, site principals, we would be doing walkthroughs. So if we have a set date versus a more sporadic approach, we're able to properly supervise and make sure that everything's being done safely.
Okay.
So we could say if there were a clearance, let's say if it was approved today, you still need at least 2 weeks. And so we would say that maybe that no sooner than on or after, like let's say April 1st, we could say that. I'm saying that. Can we say that? The reason is for I want to make sure that no matter what, that nothing happens before we have the spring break rush, right? Because there's going to be a lot of, in the next 2 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks, people will be doing spring break, and they're anticipating that the numbers are going to spike again because of spring break. And so that no matter what, we wouldn't be going into implementing anything with student interaction until after at least this first, set of weeks of, which are the next 2 weeks, this week, last week, next week, and the next week will be kind of those spring break weeks all the way through the end of March. So if that were the case, could we, no matter what, we're not going to start anything before April 1st, ideally?
That is correct. That's what Dr. Chavez is indicating, and we can continue to monitor numbers, especially after spring break, so that we can have up-to-date data at that point in time, certainly before the first day of actual participation.
Excellent. Okay, that was my last question. Thank you.
Just a clarifying question. When you say clear, do you mean that students and coaches will be getting like COVID tested with a positive or not positive situation, or something else? Okay.
There's standard medical clearance that our athletes have to partake in before they can condition or play in sports. And then for our coaches, there are different elements that they have to go through in order to get hired. So they need to have their CPR, first aid, so it's a number of different things that we need to give them some time so that they could have time to get those things done.
You're on mute, Mr. Martinez.
Oh, this thing, I love it. You can tell. Do we have staff that is willing to come back, or have they displayed any reluctance?
Dr. Chavez?
I have been working closely with athletic directors, and it appears that the staff is very gung-ho to come back and see their kids. So from what I've heard, there isn't resistance from staff, but that may come where, we haven't surveyed all coaches, but we do know that there are some coaches out there being vocal about their desire to come back.
All right, Vice President Montes.
I just would like to make a suggestion, since the risk of spring break contributing to rising numbers of COVID-19, would the board entertain bringing this item back right after spring break?
I don't know. My thought was we shouldn't have voted till after spring break, but that's okay. Dr. Avila or any other board members, what is your feeling?
My feeling is that was the point of my question about the caveat about the date, right? Like we wouldn't start any sooner than, whatever date. Because we can take action today, and if we still have a date that the implementation is still after spring break or a certain time after spring break, it makes our purpose. If the numbers, if they go up, too high, or we're back in purple, it's automatically, we're back down. We're not going to be, we will have to, halt that program, because the stipulation is that we're out of, we're no longer in purple, right? But if we're back in purple, we shouldn't be implementing a athletic program regardless. So I'm just saying, if we're talking about an implementation date after spring break, a specific time after spring break, then a vote today, if we say that, nothing would be happening until after that anyway.
Would you like to put that into a motion, something like contingent upon remaining in the red and not advancing back to purple? However you wanted to word that. If anyone would like to put that into a motion.
So, I would. So, can I do an amendment at this time, or do we have to?
Yes, ma'am, you're proposing an amendment.
So I would propose to amend the current recommendation to not be implemented until after April 1st, and contingent on our school and the county being in the red, staying in the red or below.
Okay, question. Can staff begin, upon today's vote, can staff begin to get clearance to begin on April 1st if we remain in the red? Ms. Walker, I was asking you.
Oh, yes.
What your intent was?
Yes, they can begin doing the process, but no matter what, implementation would not occur until after, again, no sooner than April 1st. And that is predicated on us still being in the red or in a better COVID condition.
Okay, let's see if I can get this into an amendment. So the motion is to amend the resolution that beginning April 1st, if we are in the red, we continue contingent upon that. But if we climb to a purple, then we would automatically stop without having to come back. Is that what I'm understanding?
I think the resolution, I'm not quite sure, is when you read the resolution, I believe that was covered, right? So what are you saying? Remember, Walker, is you just saying it's not going to be on the field until after the first with the clearance. So the way the resolution was written, that was already put in motion. And with the 2 weeks leadway that they have, they
Right.
evaluate that.
Ms. Lewis is absolutely right. The difference would be that if action is taken today and the tier goes back to purple, that it be canceled. But in essence, it's almost the same thing. My worry is spring break for Rialto Unified School District is not at the same time as spring break for neighboring and surrounding school districts. We got to remember that we have a difference of 1 to 2 weeks on average between the amount of time spring break different districts take it. And my guess is the reason why it was set up that way, so that the Inland Empire or Southern California doesn't have all of the school spring breakers out at the very same time. But the fact that we're gonna have some districts coming back from spring break sooner and some coming back after, I think we should take into account, and perhaps maybe push this back just a little bit further to be on the safe side.
Right, and that was what I was thinking about was when I said April 1st, looking at most of the districts here have already started, either they started with us, with Rialto last week, or they're starting this week, next week, and then they'll end that following week, the last week in March, for spring breaks. So at the earliest would be the first, would catch some of the districts in their last couple of days of spring break. But we would already start seeing the numbers. If they're going to be on the incline, we'll already be seeing them as of next week. They're going to start being reported next week and the week after. We could, though, say instead of April 1st, I mean, we could go until the next week, which would be the 5th or the 9th, or I mean, what's that? Yeah, so that would be like the 5th, the week of the 5th. That'll be the Monday.
We have a motion on the table put forth by Ms. Walker. If you would like to reiterate that, or I'll try, that we continue contingently upon remaining in the red. Other than that, we would stop authorization. Is that plain enough?
But does that get you now the date being no sooner than April 5th? Meaning implementation wouldn't be, they wouldn't go into the field or anything till no later than April 5th. That will give us, that's 3 weeks, Edgar. Never mind, Tess.
Okay, is that good with everyone?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that means, as I understand it, that everyone could begin preparing to begin on April 5th, unless we move back to purple. And I'm interested in purple in Rialto, not the county, not the state, not the national. So we should hear within those 3 weeks. But in the meantime, we can prepare. Do we have a second for that amendment?
I think which was our first is we're going to have conditioning, and then with that amendment, correct? We first have to approve the amendment states conditioning with amendment. Is that the motion?
As I understand it,
Statement with the
the
amendment.
resolution would not go into effect until April 5th.
Okay.
So the only thing that is happening is coaches are prepared, everything, all the PPE is put in place for a start date of April 5th. That's the way I understand it.
Yes.
I see an acknowledgement by Ms. Walker, and we have multiple seconds here. So Ms. O'Kelly, thank you for the second. We are voting on the amendment to not begin until April 5th, except preparing. Everyone can prepare, and students would not begin sports or conditioning until April 5th. And Ms. Walker, if I stated it correctly, you can vote. Other than that, correct me, please. Go ahead.
My vote is aye.
Ms. O'Kelly, what is your vote?
Aye.
Okay. Clerk Lewis, what is your vote on the amendment?
Aye.
Okay. Vice President Montez, what is your vote?
I just would like to point out, I appreciate the consideration to move this resolution for a little bit further back in date, but I continue to believe that it's still not safe to do so. My vote is no.
Thank you, Vice President Montez. And on the resolution amendment, my vote is yes. So we have only one no. So that means that the amendment carries. Now we are on voting for the amended resolution. Ms. Walker, well, let me find out. Questions or comments on the amended resolution? This evil thing. Hearing none, we are voting on the resolution as amended. Ms. Walker.
Aye.
Thank you. And Ms. O'Kelly?
Aye.
Clerk Lewis?
Aye.
Okay, Vice President Montez?
Nay.
Okay. And myself, I am an aye. All righty. Motion passes. The resolution as amended will allow sports within Rialto to begin on April 5th. In the meantime, we will prepare to have students begin on April 5th, unless the only contingency is if we were to move away from the red into the purple. Then we would have to, it would go back to no, and we'd have to come back at a safer time to vote on it again. Other than that, we're looking at April 5th. Congratulations, students. Does anyone have any closing comments they would like to make? Okay, hearing none. Let's see here. Student board member, I would like to hear a motion to adjourn, please.
I, Destiny, motion to adjourn.
All right, thank
Second.
you.
Lewis.
Thank you. Okay, and Ms. Walker, voting to adjourn.
Yes, in favor.
Okay, Miss O'Kelly.
Aye.
Okay, Clerk Lewis.
Aye.
Thank you. Vice President Montez.
Ay, ay, ay.
And that's the truth. Okay, and myself on adjournment, yes, I would like to adjourn. And it is 5:17. Okay, thank you, everyone.